Welcome back to the Kyber Collective. I'm one of your three hosts, Annie, and I'm joined by Sig and Flowers.
Hey!
And today we're going to tackle the Phantom Menace.
Ooh. I have been waiting a long time to get to the prequels.
Yeah, there's definitely been a prequel renaissance lately.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. I remember when the sequels came out, when The Force Awakens came out, it was like they were trying to erase the prequels somehow.
Yeah.
Like they were never mentioned. It was almost like they hadn't existed. But then as the sequels sort of like went on, people, I think, went back and realized how much they actually liked the prequels.
Yeah.
So there's been this renaissance, and then obviously like kids who watched it when they were little, they've grown up.
Yeah.
So the three of us have like completely different experiences of how we first experienced prequels. So I wanted to start off by talking about that. How did you first watch The Phantom Menace, Flowers?
I watched it in out of order because I watched Attack of the Clones first when that movie came out. That was the first time I saw Star Wars. And later I realized there was a predecessor, a part one. So my siblings went out and found the first movie. It also might have been just playing on TV because, they do like some Star Wars marathons whenever new movies coming out. But I feel like we got the movie. And I watched The Phantom Menace and I was like, oh, this is how it all started. This is little Annie. Oh, he was so adorable. I loved him. And the little moment of Jar Jar in Attack of the Clones then made sense of like, why do I have to know this character? So, it's because he was on Naboo. There's a whole thing with him there. And I loved seeing Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. I think they had to be one of like my favorite. There are two favorite parts of this movie: Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and their adventures, and Padme and the experiences that she goes through, and also just the way she carried herself. But yeah, that was how I watched the Phantom Menace, and I really, really enjoyed it. I loved seeing this backstory. Yeah. It was so cool. It was just, my mind was blown at this age. So everything I was absorbing was like, just give me all the Star Wars knowledge.
So you really liked it when you first saw it?
I loved it. Yeah, there was no reason for me to dislike it. I think the only thing where my attention span kind of drifted was the pod race scene because it was kind of long. But yeah, that was the only thing that I remember kind of wanting to skip a bit, but I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Sig?
It's possible that I did watch it as a kid. Because we had a toy that I don't really remember where it came from, but it was like a Star Wars communicator, and it had 4 buttons, and it played like 4 sound bites from the Phantom Menace. So it had like Jar Jar go like, "Oh, Maxi Big, the Force," and I remember just like not understanding what that sentence meant at all, but like playing with this communicator, and it made lightsaber noises, which was very good. So like at some point I owned this. I feel like we might have seen the movie, but I don't remember it. I don't remember liking The Phantom Menace very much the first time I saw it as an adult, I think. I liked Qui-Gon a lot because he's very calming. And I don't think I could get past the horrible Padawan haircut to appreciate what was going on with anyone else. And like Jar Jar is very grating when you're, like an adult. But it has grown on me. I think of all the films, I think it's the one that's probably grown on me the most. Maybe Attack of the Clones as well. But like that one, every time I rewatch it, I come to love the film more and find new things in it and have more tiny little moments that like make it really wonderful. And like Qui-Gon has grown on me enormously. So it's been a journey, I think, with the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. It definitely has been a journey. I've had a lot of ups and downs with it, honestly. I first saw it when the night that it came out. I went to the midnight showing with my brother. And I was reading about the opening of the film. Apparently, like, there had never been anything like it before. 2.2 million people took the day off of work the day that it came out.
Oh, that's so cool.
Kids were sick from school.
Yeah.
The U.S. economy took a $293 million hit because
Holy
people
cow.
didn't go to work. Although I would argue that the movie industry did very well that weekend. So
yeah.
God, that's an incredible statistic.
That must have been so cool because that was Star Wars for a lot of people coming back.
Yeah.
So there was that really incredible energy of the last thing you saw was Luke and what's going to happen now. It's a prequel story.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. I remember going into it. I didn't know what in the world was going to happen. So I can't remember trailers or anything like that. Although I do know that there's the trailer was showing for other movies and people would buy tickets to go see a movie, watch the trailer, and then leave the theater because they just wanted to go watch the trailer. Like, that's how crazily anticipated this movie was. Like, there had been nothing like it. And even in the theater, I remember there were lightsaber battles before the movie started. All the kids had their plastic lightsabers and they went up to the front and were just like battling each other. Like, I'd never seen anything like it. My brother broke his lightsaber.
That's incredible.
It was really cool. But then everybody watched the movie.
Yeah, I imagined it wasn't received well at that time.
I remember after the movie ended, everybody just sort of being kind of dazed. Nobody knew what they were supposed to feel, I think.
Yeah.
But I remember liking it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I loved it. You know, that first opening crawl and you're seeing a new Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
It's just it's very emotional.
Yeah.
And then seeing Obi-Wan, I loved Ewan McGregor at the time. I mean, like, I was a kid, but I knew what was I was old enough to know what was going on.
Yeah.
So I was excited about Obi-Wan. And I loved Qui-Gon. I can't say that I really had much of an opinion on Jar Jar Binks at that age.
Yeah.
And I was really confused, honestly, after my friends started talking about it. And I started hearing all of the reviews. I was confused why people hated it so much, because I liked it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I loved it, but I didn't hate it like everybody else seemed to. I felt like everybody took it so personally.
Yeah.
And I wonder what with like the insanity over this movie, people taking the day off and everything, could it have ever lived up to people's expectations?
Yeah.
No, yeah, you know, I don't remember. I think Return of the Jedi. I'm not sure what kind of hype that movie had. I know that the movies that after A New Hope were still like, they had all this hot button talk on it, on like what they thought. And so I feel like it's always been kind of contentious. I think the only movie that actually got a lot of first go, this was great, might have been A New Hope because it was the first one.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, when you have that and you have those movies and enough time passed, you start thinking, it's like the Game of Thrones effect, you know? When Game of Thrones was coming out, you thought you liked it, and then by the end you're like, eh. But then like they had some gap in years when the next season would come out and you kind of thought, oh wait, it's going to be this amazing thing, and then you watch it the next season and it's like
Yeah.
kind of like you kind of disappointed by your own expectations. So I think people had expectations on what the Phantom Menace should have looked like, and it didn't live up to their own personal hype.
Yeah, and wasn't there a huge upset about Darth Vader being so young? Because so many people had attached so much to this idea of Darth Vader as this iconic villain. And I've definitely read stuff that's like contemporary to when the film came out that's like, it completely emasculated him. He's now this dumb, whiny kid. This is unbelievable. Like, he's not really Darth Vader anymore. And I mean, George Lucas has come out pretty firmly and been like, yeah, that's the point.
He's been quoted, I mean, this is from, you know, his own words that a lot of people were against his team, I guess, whoever he was proposing this movie to, they were very against the plot of the prequels. They did not want, like you said, to emasculate Darth Vader. They wanted this like character who was evil from the get-go.
Yeah.
See, that would never why do you suppose that is? Why do you think that people didn't want Vader to be emasculated or what have you? Like, it would never occur to me to be like, I love this evil character, please don't emasculate him. I would want to know the story behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why those two are connected of having a backstory and being emasculated.
Yeah.
People get somewhere in some way. So I guess they didn't want the cool factor, the cool persona that Darth Vader had become to be diminished going forward.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's the cool factor. I really think it's the cool factor because like words that get thrown around a lot are like whiny and like, you know, that he's a brat. And this kind of continues all the way through. And that's, I guess, like Darth Vader is this like dark, mysterious figure. We don't know much aside from the fact that he's Luke's father. He's extremely powerful. And I guess that's the being a whiny young. And in many ways, like, I mean, he's a chosen one, but he doesn't have a huge amount of power in that narrative, I guess, is something that reads as emasculating if you're bad at understanding films. I struggle to have sympathy with this point of view because I think it's asinine, but like I think that it comes from that because the kind of language people use when they attack Anakin and his depiction in the prequel films is very much like he's a whiny brat and I wanted him to be cooler. And I think I think that's all that it is that he's not the...
I mean, have you met a teenager though? Like, have you met a young child?
Well,
like, I don't know how cool you're supposed to be at that age.
Not very.
No. I don't know what they expected. Yeah. Like, he was supposed to be like the coolest tiny child of all time. Just like...
Yeah.
I suppose the argument is they shouldn't have started at him at that age anyway.
Yeah.
They should have had him be older.
And I mean, there are aspects of the romance as well that are difficult to watch, and I suppose that also contributes to like you don't even get the like grand cool like moment of him getting the girl because it's the dialogue is questionable. I can see the argument that he's uncool, but I react to it in the exact same way I do to people who get really pissed at like the depiction of Harry as he ages. It's like, yeah, he's whiny, but he's also 15, so like I don't know what to tell you, man. Like,
right.
I think it's an accurate read on someone in that particular situation, and I'm not fussed about it.
Yeah, I mean, like his problem partly is that he's a little bit emotionally stunted, and like.
Yeah,
that's why he is the way he is. Like,
yeah,
totally makes sense to me. I think George knew that he wasn't going to please everybody though, and I think he went in knowing that. He knew he was never going to please everyone. He just hoped some people would like it, and I think that it's funny that it took 20 years for people to look upon this movie fondly.
Yeah.
I've watched interviews with him before, and he said something like, you know, it's really sad. He says stuff like, they never liked the movies. They haven't liked any of them. They only liked one of the movies. And it just, you know, as a creative person, you know, it just always I always feel sorry for the guy. I feel sorry for a billionaire.
In a creative lens, it is difficult when you see something like that and someone who's genuinely trying to do some storytelling. I think we can all relate to that feeling. It does suck. It does suck to be so widely panned for actually a very simple concept.
Yeah.
Right. And he never wants to do the same thing, like tell the same story twice. So the prequels were not going to be like the originals. It was going to be a completely different deal like the whole time. I'm not sure if people just wanted a rehash of the originals.
Here's the thing, though. We've seen what it looks like when you try to aim for being cool. And
we do.
Trying to be like the originals.
We've seen that now, yeah.
We've seen it now, and it does not work.
I also get the impression from some of the interviews that he's given that, like, the prequels are a lot closer to what he actually wanted because of the advent of, like, the digital effects. So like he was imagining something of the scale that we get in the prequels with like the Jedi Order and a massive number of ships and like the huge expansive universe that we get. And this is the first time he's been able to bring it to life. And it's kind of like, this is what Star Wars would have looked like if he'd had the same tools in, 1970, whatever, that this has been in his mind the entire way along. And like, this has always been the way that it's supposed to be. Yeah. And it's innovative and it's interesting. And it's like, and it makes me think of that. What was he started this film project where it was like the directors will have final say and the studios will never be able to interfere it with us again. And he's like clearly got that mentality the whole way through because he's like, I'm going to buy all of my rights and I'm going to do it my way. And I don't care if you don't like it because this is what I see in my mind and this is what I want to put out into the world. And it's like a nice counterpoint to the way that I guess the sequels have been managed, but also something that I see in the way that the TV shows and the way Disney is managing the property is it's all starting to merge into something quite samey. And I think it's because it's a safe choice and it's a non-innovative choice but it's a choice that they know will make money. But I think it's also artistically a little bit more bankrupt. And that's not to say that it can't be good, but it's not something you haven't seen before. And like, I've enjoyed it, but I think that I think someone like George Lucas at the helm and probably not under the thumb of Disney would have had very different directions to go in than what they've chosen.
Oh yes, definitely. So when you said that like with Disney, it's kind of turned into more about the money than the story. But I know that when the prequels came out, people accused George of the same thing, that he cared more about toy sales than he cared about the story. Do you guys think that that's just like a cynical view, or do you think that he cared about the story?
I think given the story we were provided, it's hard to say that he was only caring about marketing. I think there's always a marketable aspect to any content you create, because at the end of the day, this is your job and you do want to make money. Mm-hmm. However, I think he went into such a, at the time at least, polarizing direction in the story that he wanted to take and make, and ignored all of the other executives who were telling him this is a terrible idea. Mm-hmm. And having seen the story that he came up with, I don't think that it's a not creative take. I think this is as far in the other field you could have gone. Yeah. And he went there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like it doesn't have to be one or the other, because it's obvious that toy sales were an issue because they'd fumbled the rights on toy sales for the original trilogy. They sold it to a tiny toy company, and they sold the rights exclusively and in perpetuity, which is stupid. And so George, I mean, the amount of his own money that he put back into the subsequent Star Wars films and the amount of independence he obviously wanted makes it quite clear that he needed money to maintain the level of independence that he wanted. He was an astute businessman who understood that toy sales were worth a lot of money. He'd negotiated those rights. So I think, I'm sure that they were a factor, but I think he was using that as a medium to continue to tell the stories that he cared about. And so he cared about making money. He was thoughtful he cared about the rights for the toys. I think it's pretty clear he did. It wasn't a non-negligible issue, but I think he cared a lot more about having the money to continue to finance his projects independently and not go bankrupt.
I'm always interested in the accusation that someone does something for money. Because at the end of the day, it's like, they need...
so does everyone.
If you want content, so is everyone. If you want a service, if you want to see something, it requires money, and this is no different. The exception is, are you doing it motivated through money? Yeah. Which I would like. Are you doing something to play it safe? I think those are two different arguments.
Yeah, and I don't think if he wanted to play it safe and just make a billion clones of the Star Wars films, I'm sure that they would have made money. Like, if he had produced just more in the same vein, it may very well have been more lucrative, certainly than the prequel trilogy, turned out to be, despite the fact that, you know, ticket sales were very good. I mean, the backlash was enormous. So
yeah.
It's interesting for me to like hear people talk about stuff like that, the toys and the merchandise, because that's one aspect of fandom that I don't get too much into. I like to collect fan art, but actual licensed toys and merchandise, I don't really have a ton of. My brother has a ton of Star Wars toys. He's the one that got into the toys. I do remember when the Phantom Menace came out, we collected all of these soda cans that had every character on the soda can.
Yeah.
And I can't
I remember this.
Yeah, I can't remember that happening before. I don't know if it was like, because I know that, remember Burger King and McDonald's, they would have their toys and they would have glasses.
They had those lightsaber spoons in the cereal boxes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember trying to collect things, you know, but I never had like a display, you know, like a Death Star display.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think we interact and we engage with fandom related things a little differently.
Yeah.
Listen, it's worth so much money. I mean, it's insane. The rights to the films, how much money was made off of the films, and then how much money was made off of the toys. It's like, I mean, George obviously was like, I know where the money is. And it's in selling tiny Luke Skywalker figurines.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Luke, you'd be lucky to get a little Luke Skywalker figurine.
Yeah. So I think with my experience with the whole movie, the first time I saw it, I liked it. I didn't hate it. I wasn't blown away by it. Although there were a couple of things that I was blown away by, like seeing Coruscant for the first time.
Yeah.
Watching Darth Maul with his saber staff for the first time.
Saber.
His double-ended, when he had, it seemed like it was just like a regular lightsaber, but then when that other end came out, our whole theater just erupted. It was insane.
That was so cool. When I saw that, I was like, there can be two sides? What?
Oh my god, and Duel of the Fates has just started up, so you're already like, something is happening, and then the other one comes out, and you're like, oh my god, this is it.
This is what I don't get. How do you watch the Duel of the Fates, and how do you watch that whole sequence and come out of that movie hating it?
Right.
Yeah.
It just feels wrong.
I agree, but people are like, it was just about taxes.
Yeah, well.
However, George, I think he went into it knowing that he had to tell a story of how a republic turns into a fascist empire.
Yeah.
And to tell that story, it takes nuance and... I knew what an empire was when I was a kid. I didn't know the nuances of it. You know, I knew fascism bad, democracy good. But as I got older, that stuff started to become more interesting to me, which is interesting because this movie just sort of like opened up as I got older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always kept finding new things.
Yeah, and it's a movie that benefits enormously from being able to watch the other two and then go back, because so much of the like political plotline that's the setup for Palpatine's whole plan is not like, if you just watch that alone, you don't have a clear sense of what's happened at all. And then when you go back from the subsequent films and realize how much is put in place in that film and how important everything that happens is, then it becomes a much, much more interesting film.
It's very true. Just there are a few things in the Phantom Menace, like perhaps Naboo shouldn't have had child queens that were easily manipulated.
Well, I mean, the other side of it is the relatively accurate depiction of what democracy looks like when Padme comes and begs everyone to be like, look, my planet's been invaded, my people are dying right now, and they're like, citation needed. We're going to have like 6 meetings to determine whether the evidence that you've presented is viable. And then we're going to have like 6 more meetings to decide what to do about it. And then after most of your population is dead, we're going to, you know, and it's like, this is a bunch of people who are following rules that are important, doing things that, you know, generally, and like in principle, I absolutely approve of, that is being manipulated and stonewalled by a handful of bad actors.
Yeah, Palpatine knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew that they were going to fall into the bureaucratic bullshit, and they did. And so he was in Padme's ear, and the rest is history.
You can see the moment that Valorum realized, because Valorum is like, he's very much like, okay, come present, we'll do something about this. And you can see the moment that the Trade Federation is like, there's no concrete evidence. Masamada leans over to him, and you can just see him go, fuck this. And it's the moment that Palpatine's been waiting for. Because he knew exactly, and probably actually prompted the Trade Federation to do all of it.
Well, he knew how to exploit the Senate, and he knew how the process worked, and he used it to his advantage. He dropped all of he stonewalled. He was able to drop the seeds of what he wanted.
Yeah, and admittedly, having something called the Trade Federation be one of the big bads is not sexy. Not nearly as crazy as Darth Maul was, but also it's so applicable to actual life.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, like, George Lucas isn't completely out to lunch when it comes to storytelling, because you have this long story that's playing out with Palpatine, the Trade Federation, Naboo, and everything that's going on there. But it's paralleled concretely with the literal life and death battle that Qui-Gon and Darth Maul engage in. And Qui-Gon is the linchpin as much as Naboo is the linchpin. So Palpatine gets into power, but he also knocks out the one Jedi that may very well have completely turned this around. And there's nothing slow about that bit of the plot. I mean, Darth Maul is really cool. The fight is incredible. It's high-paced as it follows through the plot, and it's immediately paralleling the long story that we're about to do. So it's like, I sort of reject arguments that are like, this film is just about taxation and it's boring. I'm like, excuse me. Did you sleep through Duel of the Fates?
Obviously did.
I know.
I don't know, man. You're right, though. He took out Qui-Gon, who, if he would have lived, things could have been a lot different.
Yeah.
It could have changed the course of history. And I think there's some book. Is it some book that has this revelation that Palpatine has?
Oh, are you thinking it's the Palpatine book about how... Yeah, the death of Qui-Gon changed everything and also was used to push Dooku out of the Order.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm thinking of, how he had that realization, and then he was like, I need to send Maul, my apprentice, to kill Qui-Gon, basically, because he is the determining factor of how things would have proceeded.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate him so much.
I think over time, Qui-Gon Jinn has definitely become one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars.
He's such a comforting presence in The Phantom Menace.
And he's such a giant, too. He's so tall, but yet he's just so zen. And he's also not, I wouldn't say he's like Obi-Wan either. He isn't this sort of like, he breaks the rules, honestly. Not that Obi-Wan didn't, but like when he goes to Tatooine with Padme and he doesn't know she's the queen, and he's like, what the queen doesn't know won't hurt her. I was just like, I like this guy. He definitely broke the rules. I think that's one of the reasons why people like him. And also his poncho game was on point.
Oh my God, his poncho game.
I think he wore the poncho best out of all of the Boonies.
I mean, there is the Luke Skywalker in the poncho with the stupid sun hat, but...
Is that the best? I don't know if that's the best. That's certainly the most entertaining.
It might be my favorite, but Qui-Gon is a very close second, and he wears it with so much more dignity. Like, when he walks in that poncho, every time I'm like, walk, fashion baby. Like, every time.
The man can wear a poncho.
And he might have said one of the wisest things in the whole thing. He said, your thoughts determine your reality. Like, the guy had read The Secret before The Secret had even come out.
Now I want one of the Jedi that leave the Order to just make a living writing shitty self-help books. Like,
I bet Obi-Wan tries to write one, and he just thinks back on what Qui-Gon used to say, only he fudges it up because he doesn't really remember anymore.
Well, Obi-Wan can't do self-help because you have to be able to help yourself at least a little.
Poor Obi-Wan.
It's like, how put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. Like,
yeah.
I think that piece of advice he gave Anakin we would have had a completely different Anakin had he actually heeded that advice. Your thoughts determine your reality.
Yeah.
If Anakin could have just thought differently, you know what I mean? Like when he was getting these dreams and didn't turn them into a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just, what Qui-Gon said was exactly what Anakin didn't do for the next 2 movies. And it's apparent that had Qui-Gon lived, things would have turned out a lot different. Not that Obi-Wan didn't do a good job, just things would have been different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why Qui-Gon had to go. And it was super painful watching him go.
It's extremely painful to watch.
Oh, just that look of surprise on Liam Neeson's face. It's just burned in my memory.
He was very good. And it's cute. I saw him on some talk show and he brought his lightsaber, his Qui-Gon lightsaber on, and he was so proud of it, talking about
yeah, I remember that.
And I'm like, you're so proud, Liam. I really hope that you're going to guest star on.
Yeah.
I hope so. Why would you miss that opportunity?
I know. It's like Disney, you monsters, call him. He wants to come back.
I hope in a month or 2 from now, listening back to this, we can say, hey, he did show up. We were all duped because Disney lied to us.
Oh my God. If he's in Kenobi, I'm going to
lose my mind.
The podcast will end here because he'll just be dead.
I know, this will be the last time you hear from us.
It's been great. It's been short, but I'm just deceased now.
No, I tell people at work, I mean, when Obi-Wan Kenobi comes on, don't expect me to talk about anything else. You're going to hate me. I'm going to annoy the shit out of you.
I'm kind of the same. When the Kenobi trailer came out, I sent it to all my friends and family, and only 2 of them responded back to me. And I was like, how could you do this?
I know. How do people live their lives and not care about Obi-Wan Kenobi?
It's mystifying.
It's mystifying. How do you watch that trailer and hear Duel of the Fates come on?
Exactly.
And feel nothing.
Yeah. And the Phantom Menace gave us that.
Yeah. Phantom Menace gave us so much.
It gave us... The lightsaber battles were amped up by 1,000. I mean, I love Luke and Vader battling it out, but in the time between that and the Phantom Menace, the lightsaber game just went up.
Yeah.
I mean, this is you see the Jedi in their true, the height of their ability. And that was so well portrayed. You see them it's almost an art form.
Yeah.
And you really get to see that live action. And you guys know Duel of the Fates, that whole battle is my absolute favorite battle in the entire Star Wars movies. With good reason. It was just so well done. There was so much emotion in there. There was just even the footwork was good. Everything was so cool.
I would say that even the sequels didn't match the prequels in lightsaber battles, honestly. I mean, there's a couple cool lightsaber moments in the sequels, but it doesn't really compare.
I feel like it's a lost art, I think, because just by principle, having gotten no real Jedi training by that point.
I think that's a good way of thinking about it.
Which is why I would love some prequel stuff coming out. High Republic stuff.
When they finally do live action High Republic stuff, my lightsaber dreams will come true.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look back on some of the things that are the most maligned issues from the movie. Are they that bad? Midi-chlorians. Are midi-chlorians actually that terrible?
No. Everyone needs to get over it. I mean, I get that it's a bit weird, but I feel like people who think this is really weird have just not encountered sci-fi in any meaningful way. You need to go back and read weird sci-fi books. You need to go and watch old sci-fi movies. The idea of little organisms that live in your cells and give you magic powers is nothing compared to how weird sci-fi can get. And it's fine. It's very easy to wrap your head around. It's clearly a little bit junk science, but so are lightsabers.
It's a living metaphor of symbiosis.
Yeah.
I think that makes incredible sense for the Jedi, considering they live symbiotic to their surroundings.
Yeah.
And it's not that deep.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely sci-fi in that it's a way to explain magic with science.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of movies that do that now, like the Marvel movies do it now. Like even Thor, he was like, magic and science, where I come from, they're one and the same. And, I think that that's what
Yeah.
they were trying to do with the midi-chlorians. I don't understand the hate of that aspect of the film, honestly.
I mean, if you're going to get really granular about it, I mean, organisms living inside your body is not a unusual fact. In fact, the human biome is full of things that you don't know is there, but it is very much there. You just take a look at your gut so like there are actually organisms in us that have very specialized abilities, and having a midichlorian is not that far out of the realm of possibility in a galaxy far, far
Honestly,
away.
I wish my gut microbiome gave me magic powers.
At least it could be good for something.
It barely works. At least give me powers.
It's true. And so now we have to inevitably come to Jar Jar Binks. We have to talk about him.
Jar Jar Binks.
The thing about Jar Jar is he's actually the first digital character. Jar Jar was able to give us Gollum in the future. So many Marvel characters that are completely digital, and Jar Jar was first. So in that aspect,
he sure was.
I mean, great.
I don't hate Jar Jar. I don't think he's one of those things that works for both adults and children. Like, I think the humor does fall quite flat. But Jar Jar as a character, I don't have a problem with. And I think that he serves a quite good purpose in the narrative. I think there are reasons for Jar Jar to be there that aren't just comedy. I mean, he's obviously quite central to the plot when it comes to uniting the Naboo and the Gungans. And the whole metaphor of the Gungans and the Naboo is quite central to all of Star Wars, really, if you're thinking about symbiosis and living as one and the impact that we have on one another. I think also the fact that Jar Jar is a fundamentally very good person with very little wisdom is a nice counterpoint, ironically, to Palpatine, who's a very bad person with quite a lot of wisdom. But Jar Jar, it's in Attack of the Clones, but he gets very easily manipulated, and it's kind of a scale of how many good people get turned, and Padme is another example of that. And so I think that there are reasons to have Jar Jar in the narrative. I think that I don't have a problem with him being there. I just wish the humor was better.
Yeah, I think they really scaled down on him in Attack of the Clones. It doesn't have quite that same grating feeling maybe that we get when we watch him in Phantom Menace, but he is important. He has a whole reason to be included in the narrative, and like you said, there's a symbiotic aspect to it that even Obi-Wan brings up when he and Qui-Gon go to see the Gungans. He's like, surely you must see this. He's so offended that they don't understand that they're part of the whole universe.
Sir, this is your own ecosystem.
He's so cross. It just makes me think of all the studying he must have done at the Jedi Temple about like ecosystems and like symbiotic systems and biomes and how like everyone is connected. Yeah. And then he sees a very prime example on Naboo, and he's just so
pressed that whole movie
about this.
Yeah,
he was.
He was so salty that whole movie.
He was. I mean, Qui-Gon gets pretty salty. The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
I know. I was like, wow, a Jedi said that.
Yeah. Absolutely savage. Like the two. I mean, in fairness, they're having a really bad day.
Yeah.
It definitely is. Yeah, Jar Jar was one of the things that I was confused about when I first watched it, just seeing everybody's just crazy reaction to him. Because I didn't really, I don't think I paid him that much mind at all. I just remember being confused about why people hated him.
You know what's interesting to this, prequel talk? I don't remember hearing all of the negative reviews when I was a kid. And I think maybe it's because that I wasn't interacting with media where he was, but like the stuff that I was seeing was like very excited kind of news and like, some like magazines about it. But I feel like I completely missed the negativity until the movies were done. And then maybe that I was on the internet more at that age, because once Revenge of the Sith was out. But I didn't know that people had such a problem with it until after the fact.
I definitely was friends with a lot of nerds at the time that really hated it. I definitely heard a lot of negativity towards it. And I was just always so confused by it.
Yeah.
I was just like, how could you hate this movie so much and take it so personally?
Yeah.
And there's so many essays on YouTube. You could watch any number of them where people get very heated about the prequels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why the negativity was so amped up this go around, is because the internet was a thing for the prequels.
Yeah.
I admit I have not watched a lot of prequel.
I don't recommend it.
Negative videos on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, in general, I like to think that I enjoy thoughtful criticism in things, even things that I enjoy. And there is a lot to criticize about the prequels, but I feel like the core of the story is so well constructed that I struggle to imagine the real beef. Like, what's the actual beef you have with the Phantom Menace?
That's a good question.
Specifically. This is not an invitation for people to tell me either. I don't want to interact with it right this moment.
Yeah.
I do remember liking Jar Jar in the Clone Wars, though. Do you remember that episode? People thought he was a Jedi.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
I think that was the first Jar Jar centric episode, and it's one of my favorites.
He goes on that amazing like Zuko adventure with Mace Windu.
Yeah.
They really knew what to do with Jar Jar, I think, in the Clone Wars, because there's that scene as well where he's facing General Grievous, and I genuinely could not stop laughing at him being like, him and Grievous in the same room was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
It was the best.
Yeah.
And Grievous is eyeing him like, who is this moron?
But this is exactly what I need, is like, he works, when the humor works, there's nothing wrong with Jar Jar. I just think that like a lot of the Jar Jar humor was either slapstick or farting, and neither of those are really my favorite.
Yeah. They don't really land, especially with longevity as time has gone on.
Yeah. And maybe because he was the first digital character, like, because I feel like I vaguely remember George Lucas or someone talking about it being almost Buster Keaton-esque, like the kind of, especially when you think about the battle at the end with the Gungans where he like accidentally kills loads of people, and it was meant to be a kind of Buster Keaton sequence. But I wonder if because he's the first real digital character, it doesn't have any of the charm, at least for me. It doesn't have any of the charm of a really good slapstick. Like Buster Keaton is probably about as good as you can get in that genre. And like, it just doesn't, it misses the mark for me.
Now that you've said it and you've come, like the Buster Keaton I actually now understand.
Yeah, the physical comedy. It just wasn't like physical enough in this digital character.
No. And he doesn't, I mean, he's not got like the right weight, and everything just looks a little bit, I mean, also the CGI hasn't aged super well as old CGI is wont to do. So
yeah, that's very true. So I would argue that the toxic fandom is probably at its worst when it comes to Jar Jar and its treatment of the actors, Ahmed Best and Jake Lloyd.
Oh my God, yeah.
Dude, if Jake Lloyd ever finds himself specifically listening to this episode at this hour mark, I hope you know that you're very loved.
Yeah.
Because I cannot believe the treatment that he received. I mean, people as a society really went after a child actor.
They did. They went after a child.
That was so disturbing to find out. I just feel very sorry about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, both of them did a good job. I mean, the voice acting for Jar Jar is emotive. The jokes don't land for me, but it's not necessarily because Ahmed Best didn't do a good job. Like, I think, and I believe he did some of the physicality that they then modeled onto, and like, there's a very clear, distinct physicality to the character of Jar Jar. I have no doubt that he did an excellent job as an actor. Jake Lloyd did an amazing job for such a little kid.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I cannot fathom being the sort of person who attacks an actor for not enjoying a film. And I'm actually quite comfortable saying very publicly on a podcast that if you do that, that I think that you need to reevaluate your life and get the hell off the internet.
Yeah, or like being the type of person that tells another human being that your performance ruined my childhood.
Yeah, that's like over a line.
So unacceptable. Yeah. And you've lost the plot, I think, by that point when you start behaving that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would say you're not a real fan. You behave that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did such a good job. Ahmed Best did such a good job. Jake Lloyd did such a good job.
Yeah.
I think they hated that he was like adorable in the end. Like he just a good boy.
Yeah.
He tried his best.
I think that's what it was. Like he emasculated.
Yeah.
He didn't, but
yeah.
He humanized their hero a little too much.
And it wasn't whatever they were imagining. I mean, I think we touched on it at the beginning, like it was such a big thing and people had been thinking about it for so long that almost nothing was going to live up to the hype. And I think there clearly was this idea about Vader in a lot of people's minds, and they had built their own backstory, their own conception of who this person was. And it did not line up with this little 9-year-old who thinks spinning's a good trick. But I get that, you know. I also read the 7th Harry Potter book, and I think most of us, by the time the 7th book came out, had ideas personally about what they wanted to see. And I don't think anything J.K. Rowling wrote in that 7th book was going to live up to what people were expecting. So, but I didn't write hate letters. Like, there's a line.
There's a line. Like, you need some perspective.
Yeah, you didn't write hate letters to a child.
If something that you're interacting with in this type of genre of like film or book or whatever is making you that angry, I think the first thing you should do is probably step away from it.
Yeah, well, it's part of a much larger and quite interesting conversation, especially nowadays with Twitter and everything, which is about the idea of ownership of fan properties, right? Because nothing that is done in canon in any way diminishes what you personally think, because who cares? You can still enjoy whatever it is that you were imagining. And if you want to write fanfic about it, or if you want to talk about it on a YouTube video, or I don't care what you do with it, but that still exists. And just because something has become canon doesn't mean you have to let go of whatever it was you were enjoying, or that you have to like it. But you do have to be respectful to other human beings, and you don't own them. You don't own the property. Somebody is adding to the canon, and they don't owe you anything. You're free to not like it, but you're not entitled to act like a promise was made about what Darth Vader was going to be, and that you have been personally betrayed because he's a 9-year-old. Like, that's not how it works, man. Like,
he was never supposed to be a child. He simply popped into existence one day.
He was born out of the suit at 21 years old.
It's true.
Somehow had 2 children in that process.
Somehow. You guys seen that footage of Ahmed Best at the Star Wars Experience in 2019? When he came out on stage and they gave him a standing ovation like that. It makes me tear up every single time. So I'm like, finally, he's actually getting some love, and he deserves it so much, you know?
It makes me really happy when I see that. And in a similar vein, when Hayden gets that, I'm really glad that the tide has turned on that specific kind of reaction to the actors.
Yeah,
me too. Because they've all talked about how hurtful it is. I mean, and Ahmed and Jake got it the worst, but you and Hayden especially got it really bad as well.
Yeah.
I think Hayden he's dealt with it pretty well, I would say. He went up to Canada on his farm, and just like...
Good for him, honestly.
Yeah. It's going to be very cool to see him back, though.
Oh, I can't wait.
I can't even think about it too much, because if I do, I start getting too excited. I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to be cool about it.
Yeah.
But all of my dreams are coming true this summer. I don't know what to do. There was a point when, and we're getting a little off topic, but when the Mandalorian's first season came out, I really got back into Star Wars, and I was looking up Star Wars stuff. And for at least 6 months, I would go on Google and just check Hayden Christensen's name and see if there's any way he's coming back. And there were never any articles on him. There was never any hot goss. There was nothing, and it was a really sad 6 months. And then and then the next thing you know, I think that following November, whenever that Disney thing, that drop was, that he was coming back, I just lost my whole entire mind. I've been in that state of mind for like a year now.
Yeah.
After so many announcements, we were just emotionally spent.
I didn't know what to do anymore. I was paralyzed with so much joy.
Exactly. Even though we knew it was going to be years before we actually saw any of this stuff, but
yeah, but guess what? Those years have passed.
I know.
we're getting
finally happening. Hayden has successfully canoed down to Los Angeles.
He finally paddled his canoe to LA.
Although didn't they film in England? Maybe he paddled the Atlantic, which is why it took so
long. That's true.
Yeah. So the Phantom Menace, I think it's gotten better with age for me, definitely. And for being such a terrible movie, it is strangely rewatchable. I could watch it over and over again. Anytime it's on television, like, there I am watching it.
It makes me so happy when I see the Phantom Menace on.
Yeah.
It's definitely rewatchable. It's almost more rewatchable than the other two, only because it's not so despairing, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, at the end, it's not so, impending doom.
Yeah.
There is impending doom, but it's like, it ends off so joyously.
Flowers, I have a lot of questions for you. Like, Qui-Gon dies, right?
That's how it ends. That's how it ends. Look, perspective. Okay,
that's the bit I find hard to watch.
Attack of the Clones. Okay, I will admit, it's really hard for me to watch Qui-Gon dying. That's one of the worst parts of the film, just because it's so harrowing. But I mean, you can still watch it, and there's so much. But like in Attack of the Clones, you can see Anakin starting to go haywire, and he kills a bunch of people, and then cries about it, and then loses his arm, and Obi-Wan's like, what's happening? And Dooku is like, lots of bad things happen. And the Clone Wars start, and then Revenge of the Sith, you know how that goes. It's all very depressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that so is the Phantom Menace.
But it's not depressing when they give the Gungan guy the orb.
That's true. They end with a party, and that tune at the end is a bop.
Yeah. I think that's what I mean. Yeah. I mean, like, Qui-Gon's really difficult to watch die, and it's it's setting up stuff, but I can still leave it with hope and good feelings.
And togetherness.
Yeah. Togetherness.
Two peoples working together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the stuff that the Phantom Menace gave us is important to Star Wars as a whole. We got just so many epic lightsaber battles, the Duel of the Fates. We got Padme's costumes. We got the world's first digital character. We got Ewan McGregor, who, I mean, he's
just Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, just Ewan McGregor. We got Liam Neeson for like one movie, but I'll take it. We got to see Coruscant for the first time. I'll never forget that, like seeing the flying cars everywhere and the Jedi Council, and I mean, that was just insane. Visually, it was amazing. It was just nothing could top it, honestly, at the time. I know that a lot of the effects haven't aged terribly well, but at the time it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, probably.
One thing I want to add in looking back on the Phantom Menace is, I think one of the things that's really hard to execute is caring about a character by the time they die. And you had one movie to care about Qui-Gon, and it was genuinely devastating to me when he died. They laid enough groundwork in there, and he was just such a comforting and wise character and very centered. and that you felt like things will be okay because he's here. So then when he's gone, you're like, what's going to happen? Everything seems so uncertain now. And also, I feel horrible that he died. It's just horrible. And I want to just have a shout out how well I think he was written, in that you actually, or at least for me, I actually cared when he was gone.
Yeah, definitely. Liam Neeson's a good actor. They got some... Liam and Ewan, they're both great actors, and they both really made those characters come alive. I mean, Alec Guinness did an amazing job as Obi-Wan, too.
Yeah.
But Liam, to definitely take that role from one movie and make you really care about the guy. And we talk about him constantly. I mean, he did something right, definitely.
I just love him. But both of you like killed him in your last lightning round, so I'm watching the both of you.
Oops.
It just means we have something in common with George Lucas, and I'll take that as a compliment.
No, it's true. I mean, like 20 plus years later after this movie came out, and I have gained this new respect for George Lucas that when I was a kid watching these movies, I didn't really think too much about the director and the producer. And I mean, I vaguely knew who George Lucas was, but as I grew up, I just hear people just talk so much shit about him. And now I have such a respect for the guy now. And just to hear him talk about people just hated the movies and how he wasn't going to please people and how it just got... I remember he said something like, they know it's going to be terrible before I even write it. So it's just not fun anymore. And I'm just
that's sad.
It's very sad. And especially now that we've seen the sequels, I want to be like, was that really necessary? to malign this guy like that? I mean, now that you've seen the sequels?
Yeah.
I mean, for some people, a lot of people enjoyed the sequels.
Very true. Flowers. It's very true. I shouldn't.
I mean, not the three of us. a lot of people would still say this. In fact, you see quite a lot of it on social media. But I think that quality of his, that he still does something even though he knows it's going to be widely panned, because that's the story he wants to tell, is something I really admire.
I do too, definitely.
Yeah, and I think part of his ability to have made these movies and whatever he's made since, but he has the ability to let go of any kind of negativity that he receives, and he just kind of absorbs it and then moves on, because
that's very Jedi.
Really what matters. Yeah, it's very Jedi. He does kind of practice what he preaches, and I find that even more admirable. It's something I wish I could do more.
Same. I wish I could. Yeah, definitely. Just to sort of let it go. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the lightning round.
You don't see this, but Sig just held up her fists and is ready to deck one of us.
I'm not going to deck you. I'm just ready for the lightning round. I've got to get prepped.
Yeah, we're ready. We're gonna kung fu our way through this.
Okay, what's the strangest thing you've seen with the Star Wars logo or character slapped on it? A licensed product. Something that you're like, wow, that's Star Wars now.
I actually saw one yesterday.
What's that?
I saw a lightsaber themed immersion blender.
Well, now I want it.
I was so tempted. I even picked it up and I was like, should I? And then I was like, no flowers.
I'm positive there are weirder things, but I feel like I haven't seen peak weird branded Star Wars stuff. But I'll go with the ugliest, which was a Chewbacca themed handbag that was furry and had the belt on it. But the bag was it was like shag carpet furry.
That's not going to be pleasant to use.
And it was going to get really dirty.
Yeah.
Okay, so the strangest thing that I ever saw, the thing that comes to my mind first is fruit snack. I remember seeing Kylo Ren fruit snacks and just thinking, what? No. Yeah, this is just the weirdest.
Kylo Ren fruit
that's
snacks.
The type of stuff that I think goes too far. Do we need Kylo Ren fruit snacks?
Yeah. I'm sure there must be so much weird crap out there, though. Weird as in, I'm sure there are lightsaber dildos, but then also weird as in, there's probably, I mean, I find the bed sheets of just somebody's face quite weird. Like,
yeah. There's a lot of Kylo Ren bed sheets out there. Probably.
I bet, Kylo Ren towels. So I'm
pretty sure there's a Kylo Ren toaster out there.
That's good.
It's better than a Kylo Ren body pillow.
Ooh.
Oh, no. No.
Don't need the body
pillows are a pass from me.
Okay, question number 2. What is your favorite Padme outfit in the whole thing, not just Phantom Menace?
That's really difficult because the art and costume department for her was... I'm going to make it easier on myself and only pick from the Phantom Menace for now until I can think of the rest of her outfits. But the one where she has the white robe and the white headdress with the dangling... And she's got the makeup on. And there's a specific name for it. It's like something falling tears, or I don't remember the name of it.
And it looks like a kimono.
Yeah, it looks like a kimono. I think that's a stunning piece, and I think it's inspired by like kabuki women. So I really loved that, and plus she looks so badass.
It's amazing.
Just the way she looks at you, like it's that's my favorite one.
That's definitely one of my favorites. I'm going to go with the one in Attack of the Clones where she and Anakin have to dress like poor refugees. And so she puts on like a full lace veil thing and this fancy dress and this like metal skull cap thing. And that's her version of a poor person. And I laugh every single time. It's like, that's what you think refugees look like, Padme. Okay.
I mean, she must be one of the fanciest refugees I'd ever seen.
I know, they're like being conspicuous, and that's how she dresses. And in fairness, it is dressing down, but like she also had that white jumpsuit. Could you not have worn that? But anyway.
yeah, that is very true.
Yeah.
I think my favorite is the outfit she was wearing in the field during.
That's beautiful. I love that.
That's a gorgeous. And I love her hair too. I love the it's sort of like a callback to Princess Leia's look. With the buns.
They really they did such a beautiful job on Padme.
There are zero duds. Like that red dress, the iconic one from the Phantom Menace, is incredible. The way it looks like it has creepy eyeballs on it, I love it so much. That like sunset colored dress she wears like on the beach when they have the horrible sand conversation, incredible. Like everything she wears is so good. Her pregnancy outfits are like to die for.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Even that black evening gown she wears when she's supposed to not be flirting with Anakin.
Yeah.
Did you know this? That George Lucas designed that dress?
Are you serious?
He designed one dress in his life, and he designed that seductress outfit for Padme where you have the piece over and then that comes off and then he made that. I guess he had a vision, he had to make it. I don't know what to do with that information.
I don't either.
It is really funny because the dress looks like what Anakin would design if he designed one dress in his entire life, and he's like, well, it's a bit like leather and it's really tight. And I love that it was like George Lucas who was like,
No, he saw through Anakin's mind and was like, this is what he wants to see and this is what Padme's gonna wear.
Yeah.
It was beautifully crafted. I mean, it was a pretty sexy dress.
She did look good. She always does. Good. So
yeah, Natalie Portman's gorgeous.
God,
absolutely gorgeous. And they picked a great mom for Leia.
Yeah.
Her costumes are amazing. I still am like, I'll watch them just for her costumes. That's one of the things I wish the sequels had a little bit more of is, I mean, I guess poor Rey, she was just sort of like living out on her own in the desert. She couldn't exactly wear elaborate dresses, but
they don't go to many planets. Like, we don't see very many other cultures in the sequels, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
The one that we went to, Canto Bight, that was just not even anything on the level of Padme's dresses. Padme's wardrobe supremacy.
Yeah. Well, the one that they really could have done it with is Kira.
Yes.
Yeah, they could have.
Yeah.
She should have, actually.
Yeah. I think she would have been the one with the really cool wardrobe. And she looked good, but that's because it's Emilia Clarke. So, like, you could put her in trash bags and I'd be like, yeah, it looks amazing.
Maybe it's a Naboo thing. I mean, the ladies of Naboo always brought it, you know?
Oh, like, Naboo clearly has, like, fashion houses and, like, they have a lot going on. Like,
they do.
Yeah. And the handmaidens, I love their outfit, that beautiful red and orange look. I always thought that was so clever. Yeah. Padme and her handmaidens.
Shout out to Keira Knightley, by the way, one of our darling handmaidens of the Queen.
Yeah, she was brilliant. Well, and even Palpatine's outfits are really ornate compared to like what we see out of and they're goofy. Like he has like the mutton sleeves. I think it's in the Phantom Menace and like in a couple other things. He has really goofy outfits that just work because Ian McDermott's like, yeah, of course I'm wearing this, and I'm a Sith Lord. And like
that man, he can wear a crazy robe, can't he? He can act.
He really, because he makes it look normal, and it's profoundly abnormal clothing. Like when you look closely at it, you're like, wait, what is he wearing? And then you watch him, and you're like, I didn't even notice because you're just being like a charming old grandfather, and I just assumed. I was like, clearly you're wearing normal clothes.
It's true.
It's true.
It's like a surprise, to be sure.
Yeah, but a welcome one.
Oh my God, that line. That's one of my favorite lines in that movie. One of many.
Yeah. That's one of the great things about the prequels is just realizing how memeable all of them were.
All of it.
They're so quotable.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Say what you want about the dialogue and the cringe, but you can quote the prequels. I can quote the prequels more than any trilogy.
Mm-hmm. We have had so much fun messaging memes to each other. Prequel memes.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Yep. And that because of Obi-Wan meme, it just never gets old.
I mean, it's a good point because like there is nothing more memeable than the prequels. And every single one of them is a delight. So please send us your memes. Like, honestly, please send us your memes. I love them so much.
And from anything. Memes from any of the Star Wars. Like even Rebels memes. Send me Ezra Miller.
Ezra Miller. Yeah.
Don't send me Ezra Miller memes. Send me Ezra Bridger memes. Thank you.
Ezra Bridger. I love him so much. Yes, please.
I want that Parks and Rec quote that we do to be realized into a meme with Ezra Bridger. You know, like Ezra Bridger never had a real job in his life.
I love putting on that Rebels as Vines YouTube compilation.
Yeah.
It cures my depression every single time.
They're so funny.
It's amazing. Okay, moving on. Lightning round question number 3. How would you have improved the Phantom Menace?
I would have cut the pod race scene.
I knew that was coming.
I think it dragged on a little too much.
Yeah. Okay, if you're cutting the pod race scene, I am going to alter the Jar Jar humor.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pair him up with Obi-Wan rather than like having him follow Anakin around quite as much. But what I would like is grumpy young Obi-Wan who hasn't quite got all of his ducks in a row, who is having the worst day of his life, trying to hang on to the last bit of there is no emotion, there is peace, as Jar Jar attempts to make friends.
I would watch that so fast. And considering his first line to Jar Jar wasn't really directed at him. What's this?
Yep. He was so pressed. I think that it just seemed like you could tell that Qui-Gon was always bringing these creatures along with him, apparently. Like, another
pathetic life form. Yeah.
Right.
This just brings me so much
But this
joy.
is why what's going to add to my humor is I'm going to have Qui-Gon repeatedly dump Jar Jar on Obi-Wan, and it's clear that this is a long-running gag that Obi-Wan is constantly having to look after like pigeons with broken wings and like sad squirrels and random children that Qui-Gon has found on the street, and he's like, I don't want this one. I'm tired. Can I please graduate now? And Qui-Gon is like, no.
He like enters the cockpit of their ship, and there's like a baby Gundark sitting on his seat.
Yeah, I bet you Qui-Gon had a Rancor before it was cool.
Oh yeah,
So Qui-Gon was Newt Scamander, or what?
Yes,
yeah.
Interesting.
He was.
I believe it. Yeah, another pathetic life form. I would have changed it in a very similar way, just so we got more Obi-Wan, honestly, because I feel like the Phantom Menace doesn't have enough Obi-Wan, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, he spends a lot of it in the ship while they're on Tatooine.
Does. I would have had Obi-Wan go into Tatooine, into the city with them, instead of staying behind. Yeah, I would have. I think that would have probably been interesting. I think it would have been a more interesting first meeting between Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Well, considering he's so salty in that movie, like that humor infused on Tatooine was what we needed.
Totally, I agree. Didn't he even stayed? He didn't even go to the pod race either, did he?
No. He missed all of it. Which is why that's what makes it so funny to think about, like, the possibility that he and Qui-Gon never really had a conversation about Anakin. And, like, Obi-Wan learns this later, like, Anakin's, like, I don't know, living in their room. And he's like, oh, Master, this is as much fun as the time Qui-Gon let me win a pod race. And Obi-Wan's like, sorry, what? Sorry, Qui-Gon raced you? Wait, hang on, he bet? Like... Everyone, the whole Jedi Council is quietly like, Qui-Gon, what the fuck?
This is brand new information.
Yeah.
Aww. That's why I love Qui-Gon so much, man. He was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He broke the rules big time.
Unpredictable.
It's thinking about him being raised by Dooku, of all people, just makes it like 10 times funnier to me.
Oh, Dooku.
Yeah.
He would have this little child like just quoting philosophy to him.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, just eat your raisin bran, young Padawan.
Well, the Claudia Gray book, Master and Apprentice, where it's like implied that Qui-Gon is like 2 steps away from being a weird street preacher about prophecies, is like my favorite take on Qui-Gon, is that he spent all of his childhood believing in these weird ancient prophecies, and Dooku was like, you have to stop reading them. You're going weird.
Okay, but like the funnier image to me at that point is the fact that his first Padawan was Rael Averross. It was like a complete like hippie-do weirdo.
I wish we'd get a live action Rael Averross with Qui-Gon and even animate something, because the combination of the two of them is just the funniest.
Oh, it's so
thing.
Hilarious. Just imagining him raising Rael, like.
Well, I feel like he took the 2 most like just difficult Padawans and was like, I'll have these.
Yeah,
I know.
And would have taken on Anakin
Skywalker. Exactly. He was like, child that looks like they'll be hell to raise, I'll take that one.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, that's it on the Phantom Menace.
Yay!
Great movie.
I love this
Thanks
film.
for listening, everybody, and make sure to answer your own lightning questions in the comments.
Yes.
We would love to hear them.
Yeah. Especially, I think, how would you fix the Phantom Menace is an awesome question, and I would really love to hear people's rewrites. Like,
yeah.
I would too.
Maybe we could get more Shmi. I'd like more of Shmi.
Always.
Justice for Shmi.
Justice for Shmi.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Kyber Collective. If you like what you heard, please give us a like. And if you've got something to say, drop us a comment below. Both of these help make us easier to find for other fans and are the best way you can support our work. If you'd like to keep up to date with our episodes, you can subscribe. And you can always talk to us on Twitter at Kyber Collective. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks, and until then, remember, the crystal is the heart of the blade, the heart is the crystal of the Jedi is the crystal of the Force is the heart of the blade. All are intertwined. The crystal, the blade, the Jedi, you are one. Both of these help us. Let me try that again. For some reason, I have trouble reading this. Probably can't read it very well. Okay. I'm really sorry my face is up really close.
That's fine.
Don't worry about it.